What is up, YouTube? This is Brandon here, also aka Movies DC. This is a review for Don't Breathe 2. This is a sequel to the 2016 hit Don't Breathe, which starred Stephen Lang and Jane Levy and Dylan Minnette, which was directed by Fede Alvarez. This is not directed by Fede Alvarez. I believe he was a writer and producer on the film, though, as with Rado Segaris. I apologize if I butchered that last name, but this was his feature film debut. This tells the story of Norman, aka the Blind Man. Years after that incident, he lives at his home with supposedly his daughter, and they're living a quiet life. He's teaching her how to survive, but then one day some burglars break in, and ultimately that's how the story starts. So this was a movie that when it was announced, it was excited. Like, this first movie was really good. I liked it. It had a really good suspense to it. It was a thriller. It was and it's about these kids these thieves trying to steal from this blind man, this guy who is nothing, but then he actually is a pretty badass, and he was a really intriguing villain, messed up. Now it's a little bit different. It's different here, and this is probably where some of the controversy comes in with this movie, is the fact that he is more of an anti-hero protagonist. While they do show, and they give you elements of that he is bad, they do really set him up as the hero of his story in this film. Well, I wouldn't say hero per se, like but yeah, he is still technically your protagonist. While though you're really rooting for Phoenix, the young girl. I can't remember her name. I wish I had her name written on this spur of the moment kind of review. And I thought she did a pretty good job. I loved the scene towards the end of what she gets to do towards the end. I thought it seemed like she got to have a little fun there. But I thought she was really well used here in this film. She's smart. She's not, she's not a damsel in distress kind of type. Like, she can hold her own. I mean, there's one sequence where she I guess needed help, but overall, I think she did enough here to see what she can do in the future. But Stephen Lang is the standout in this film. He makes this character work on screen, and what I do like about where they go with here, they make him. It's a bit of a change in a way, in terms of like he feels different from the first movie. In ways, like, I don't think he's as aggressive in the first one, where you definitely have that, he's definitely a villain type, even if he has this certain backstory in that first to what he does what he does. But in here, he definitely feel like he has that anti-hero, and there's these in that the hero kind of element, or misunderstood, or someone who's just he's lost a lot in his life kind of type of character. And it does feel really different, and he does feel a bit more vulnerable in terms of the way how he fights with these thugs who come in, and they take kidneys or whatnot from kids, I believe, and that goes into the third act of the film, but I will not spoil it. It's an interesting and which makes it much more why you're on his side compared to these other people, because they're just worse than what you saw in the first. They're worse people than in the first one, and that's kind of why I think it works enough to where you can accept it. I understand people's issues with him ultimately becoming that or being that for this film, but if it's just for this film, I think you can let it go. But if he becomes like how Arnold become more of a hero type in the Terminator films, more than that, compared to like the first one where he was truly the villain. Now obviously there's reasons to why that happened, and here they just did it. From what I've also heard, that Jane Levy did not want to come back, or there were some different characterizations of how that went down that she did want to come back or they didn't want her back or something like that. I don't know the full story, but I just know they had to change the story because they were not going to bring Jane Levy back, and you don't want to use the character without Jane Levy. So yeah, Stephen Lang and the little girl were really solid. The cinematography was I like the way it's lit. I like the action sequences they do go and the gore they do use. Though I was a little mildly disappointed from what I was expecting. The way people were talking about how violent and or gory this movie is. It has gore, don't get me wrong, but it is used in certain ways. You get enough, but I feel like, especially that there's a scene in the trailer that you see where he uses a gun, and it just feels like, okay, they're wasting, chances of other creative kills per se, with then but that's. But I think you do get enough here, especially in the third act. It gets a little more okay to more of my liking, and it makes it again. It feels different from that first movie. It definitely adds it tries to go bigger in a way. So I think that's mostly my positives. My mixed aspect my mixed aspect is the ending, the end credits sequence, and I won't get into it, but that's definitely it. I'm not sure why they did that. I understand where you're trying to go with it. Just the idea of an end credit scene for this film, I just don't think makes sense. Especially if they're, the other day I heard that it's unlikely for a Don't Breathe 3 right now. So it's why set that up? And I mean, it was a decently cheap, I think it cost $15 million, and it's probably going to make a little bit of money over that. So there's a possibility, but I don't know if they're going to go with it. So my negatives, the villains, and while the villains, it is a messed up film. It's much more messed up, I feel like, compared to that first one in terms of the villains. Now, because I know you're going to say, well, Norman was the villain in the first one. Yes, and what he did it was terrible. But we're now looking at Norman as the villain in this film, which is, I know for a lot of people, for mixed people, they don't care for that. They don't like that. The villains in here are definitely a little more over the top. Obviously, you do not like them at all. And I can kind of see where the twist was coming from with a certain character, or the certain villain, and how they were setting it up. Once we got to a certain point, I was I just had this feeling it wasn't the way that this character's leading us on. It's trying to lead her on, and it's messed up. I think that makes it work, that these characters are messed up, but but the biggest thing is that this movie does have no suspense. It does not have that same thrilling feeling as that first movie did. You know what you're expecting, and with the setup being so different, I do like that they went different. I don't want to do the same, three teenage people. I don't want that, because what's the point of doing the same thing again? I know. It did lose lots of suspense, and that's why why if you're gonna up the kills, you're gonna go a bit more gory. You need to go with a little bit more, because you're not gonna have the same suspense, effectiveness, the thrilling aspects as you were gonna have in that first one. So you got it up a bit more, and it kind of they did enough to, but yeah. Overall, and it does, and I can see some people considering this as a straight to DVD film. There's some sequences, I would say, and sometimes it does feel like that in a way, or it feels like it doesn't feel like a true sequel or a movie that's in a theater at times. That's how I felt. I don't know why, but I did kind of get that little bit of a feeling, but but I don't think it hurt it and hurt it a lot for me. But I did get kind of feeling a couple times towards certain aspects of the film. I'm not sure. I definitely do want to see this movie again, see if that changes. But yeah, that's it. So overall, in the end, I think Don't Breathe 2 is worth checking out if you were curious about it in the first place. If you're a fan of the first one, I definitely do recommend checking it out. There's enough good things in here. Stephen Lang stands out. The little girl who plays plays Phoenix is really solid here. Even though the films are a bit over the top, I think the way how messed up they are in terms of how the story goes, I think it is a positive. The negative is they are over the top, and it does take away the thrilling aspects of what that first one was. The mix out, and then the post credit scene is just, I don't think that was needed. It just kind of, they're trying to set up something. You just, where is it going? And I think it's ultimately it is a movie, and it will be mixed in the it is going to be mixed. It is going to be criticized for how they utilize Norman as the blind man as this anti-hero hero, and I can understand that, but I still would say go check it out again if you were curious. And just, yeah, I liked it enough. I didn't love it, but I liked elements of it, and I would, like I said, ultimately go check it out. But if you're not, just wait for it to come to Blu-ray, come to streaming. That's what I would say. So yeah, this is Brandon, movies at DC, signing off. Peace.